If you can't play Endgames, watch this video. I am a feeder master and these are the tips I've used to get where I am today. Moving from an average chess player to now a feeder master. So if you want to know what my students are using to skyrocket their elo, just stay tuned. Let's go. Now your brains will be on overdrive after watching this video, so ensure that you have a pen and paper. This game reached an end game as of move 9. Now, the first thing I want you guys to take away, because you need chess understanding in order to play the end game quite accurately. So here, he is pushing a lot of pawns. Not good. And why is the engine saying that a6 is book? This is why you need to know your principles of chess before diving into anything theoretical, because you'll be breaking principles like crazy and not even know where you're going wrong. So understand chess first, worry about theory later. So here, bishop to d3, and you want to know the drawback behind each move. So here, I know that I need to be playing active, so why am I putting my bishop like in between two pawns? Like, is this active? No, it's not. He played now knight to c6 and knight takes. All of this is book, but why? Now, if you're realizing it's very hard for this bishop to get out. So if he's not careful, I can actually play this move pawn to e5. I couldn't in the game, but if I get this move pawn to e5, that bishop is absolutely cooked. And this is super important for the endgames. Understand this. You need to be shutting out your opponent's pieces 100%. The less active pieces your opponent has, the more you're going to start getting your pieces forward and taking this man out of his misery. Now, queen to a5 is, oops, an absolute, that's the word I'm looking for. It's painful to actually play, right? Like, you have blundered your pawn, and that's the only reason why I can't play pawn to e5. Now, that's the reason why in the game I played this move simply castling. And just to show you, if you lack chess understanding, this is where, like in the end games, you'll start, get a little bit outplayed. Like, what if he starts to just develop his knight? He's like, all right, the only two moves I know of the opening is just this and this, and starts playing like random chess. Suddenly, his pieces are getting passive and he is already cooked. Understand the rule of activity. Get that first, everything else comes after. No, we are now understanding why e5 is book. He has made so many pawn moves, it is crazy, but it is necessary for the position. Now, this is where the end game starts, guys. I played bishop to c4, and yes, this is indeed an inaccuracy, because why is white not pushing for an advantage? Why is he going for an end game this early with the white pieces? And the answer is for you guys. So I have now gotten my pieces to active squares, and we're going to be learning exactly how to outplay your opponents from start to finish when you have an equal position. The thought process you need to have, the mindset, how you can actually implement this in your own games. Knight to f6, pawn to f3, bishop to c5, and this is your first test. If you have watched my past videos and you cannot understand this now, watch it again. So here, do we go A, king to f1, or B, king to h1? And this is going to tell me a lot about your chess understanding on a whole. Everybody here is supposed to play king to f1. Every single person. Now, I also want you guys to understand, or try to guess, why is king to h1 bad? And why does the engine want to put his king on e7 in this scenario? Chess understanding, guys. You need to get your king active in the endgame. Like, you're not getting checkmated when there's less pieces on the board. In the opening and the middle game, where there are like the heavy pieces like the queen and a lot of attacking possibilities, you need your king to safety. In the end game, your king can actually become a fighting piece. All right. Now b5. Now in the end game, we're looking at weak squares. We're like scanning the board for anything that we can actually infiltrate or attack. Him pushing pawns is not making his life any easier. All he's doing is giving us potential targets to exploit. For more advanced viewers, you would know this for like the Ruy Lopez structures, wherever black plays b5. We'll even waste a lot of bishop moves just to actually ensure that black is pushing his pawns down the board to later be exploited in the endgame. Now, what do we mean by this? Black is pushing pawns down the board, threatening to even trap my bishop. Oh, keynote for endgames, do your tactics. Thank you. All right, so pawn to a5 on the board. And what I would see at most levels, like anything like below 2000, is that you're not playing with concrete plans. They're just reacting to what your opponent is doing. And example like here, they would play moves like pawn to a3 or pawn to c3, simply just trying to get out of, just getting their bishop trapped. Anybody below like 600 would just blunder their bishop, but stay with me, guys. a4, and we are now attacking the structure. By you attacking the structure, you're forcing black to create weaknesses. I mean, he can't do it to me. My pawns are at bay. Like here, everything is like absolutely solid. White, on the other hand, is giving me targets. And remember, I am looking at my pieces. I'm like, my rook, it needs activity. Pawn breaks. And I'm now threatening to take on b5 to activate my rook. Now, if he plays pawn to b4, another piece becomes active. My knight going to c4. And all I'm doing is putting pressure on my opponent's position. By the time you check it, he is miserable. Now in the game, remember, the way in which you win games is by putting pressure on your opponents. They're not stockfish, guys. They will blunder. They will make mistakes. They will make inaccuracies. So put pressure, pawn to a4 on the board. And instead of pushing, he played bishop to a6. And this is also another thing that we need to cover. Remember, weaknesses that you are creating in the position. Like here in the game, I played this move, pawn takes b5. When you're creating weaknesses in the position, it's going to be very uncomfortable for your opponents to play on the game. So out of a completely decent game, like a completely normal game, you can start to create chances for yourself, for your opponents to go wrong. So pawn takes b5, and he should have played bishop takes b5. But again, the weaknesses are too much. I would have played c4 maybe and just start like squeezing my pieces in the game. What I think my opponent missed is the fact that the pawn on a5 looks like it's hanging. Now, whether it's hanging here or not, like long term, these pawns would have been squeezed to perfection. I mean, like orange juice. But here, he played bishop to a6. And yes, for persons wondering why I can't take on a5, I'm even slowing this down for you. Rook takes a5. This is a discovered attack. Even though I'm attacking the bishop on c5, whenever you see two pieces lined up on the same file or even diagonal, discovered attacks tend to work. Bishop takes c4 comes with tempo on the king, and it is a check. So you're seeing now where I would be down a whole exchange. Now, at my level, an exchange is a lot. I cannot come back from this unless, I do some magic. But here, bishop to a6 would have actually held on a little bit longer. Now, in the game, he played pawn takes b5. Remember, if you have weaknesses, attack weaknesses. If there's none, attack weak pawns. So, weak pawns, weaknesses, same thing. But here, he basically lost the pawn on a5. And this is not where things end. What is the mindset that we need to have when we're playing endgames? Is it trade your pieces? Oh, I'm up a pawn right now. Just get everything off the board. Rubbish. We need activity, guys. We need to, again, start squeezing the squares in our opponent's position. Also, you need to work on your evaluation. So here I have a lot of dead pieces on the back rank. I need to start getting those out. I need king activity. Everything is important. Need to work again on your chess understanding. This man is now pushing pawns down the board. Not what you do. You need to get, again, your pieces involved. So I played now pawn to c3. Now, this engine is going to say that again, pawn to c3 is a mistake. And it's not really a full-on mistake, but I am missing a good tactic right now, which is bishop to c4. Now, if you understand the principles first, then what's going to happen for you guys long-term is that you're going to start to improve on it. So you might be attacking weaknesses in your games, but it doesn't look like mine. But the more you work on it, the better it becomes. So right now, I can't do this like stockfish as yet. Like eventually, you guys would have to understand my levels. But here, yes, bishop to c4 is a gangster move. So that bishop is indeed pinned. And you're going to realize again that it's simply you putting pressure on the position, attacking weak points, weaknesses in your opponent's area. And again, Stockfish does it best. Bishop to c4 here would have, oh my god, this looks so beautiful. So I played pawn to c3 instead, completely missing this fact. And I am just going back to my baseline, my thought process, simply getting my king involved and getting the pieces off the back row. Bishop to c4 is again a fantastic move. This is maybe how the engine looks at me when I'm, it's like me analyzing somebody's games. It's like, how can they not see this? But yes, it's possible, guys. King to e2 and king to e7. So he's doing the same thing. This is how the higher rated persons actually think. They need activity for all their pieces and they're getting their king involved. Now, bishop to e3, takes. Look, if my king was on h1, my moves will not be possible, guys. By my king going to e2, it helped the bishop to actually get itself off the board and remove one of black's active pieces. So just take notes. He now went knight to h5. So he's trying desperately to get some pieces in my half of the board. All right. Unfortunately, I am unable to stop him. So I just continued with my own plans. I'm like, all right, what am I supposed to do? I need to attack weaknesses. I need to look for weak points in my opponent's camp and infiltrate. Now, I should have played knight to a3, but at the same time, it is a positional advantage. So I can do basically anything much, and it won't change the position too much. Like the pawns are going to stay the same, so it doesn't really change much. Engine even wanted bishop to d5. It's just, again, getting your pieces to decent squares. So for a positional advantage, you can actually get away with a lot of things because it doesn't change. I can play bishop to d5 whenever. It's just absolute torture. And this is why you need an active position when playing chess. You have more room to make moves. So here, pawn to g4. He's just trying his best to anchor the knight that is going to land on f4. I know went knight to h3. Now, I could have also asked you guys a question here. Even if you're developing your knight, let's say that you're all right, my knight is on the back rank. Do I go to d2? Do I go to a3? 100% of my supporters, all persons, look at weaknesses in their opponent's camp. If you're not doing this, you need to, again, just take a break, look at life, and start doing this. So, knight a3 is the only move I see. In other words, if there's not you want to look at the pathway, ways in which you can start infiltrating. Knight to d2, it's just developing a piece. So for the opening, you just get your pieces off the back rank in the middle game or towards the end game. Anything like that, we're looking for plans. How can we get our pieces to decent squares? So here, knight a3. And then, where is this knight going? Bishop to b5 first and knight to c2. No, look. Bishop is good. I'm like, it's chilling, but I need to start putting pieces in my opponent's half. Infiltrate, misplace the rook. All right, what other piece needs fixing? Knight to c2. Everything has to play, guys. I'm like, all right, rook is doing a good job. Bishop is doing a good job. Knight needs to start participating. And because he has so many pawn moves up the board, it's creating weaknesses. If this pawn was back up b7, I wouldn't have the c6 square to infiltrate. This is what happens when you overextend your position. I know that there's a ton of guys that they would do this big attack and then your opponent defends and then boom, they just lose the end game. And it's simple because of this reason. Whenever you're attacking, you're pushing a lot of pawns. So when the attack doesn't work, all that is left in your position is weaknesses. So you have to be super careful. Knight to b4 on the board and king to f8. No, he's even bringing his king backwards. This is where your opponent waves the white flag. I am threatening now knight to c6. Obviously, you don't want to be putting your king, again, in passive positions in the endgame. But in this case, it was a must. And let me see again. Another test. What would you play for the white pieces in this scenario and why? Everybody here, we look at our pieces. We have 1, 2, 3 pieces in the game. We need the fourth piece. Rook to d1. We are now swinging everything. If you don't see things working, I'm not like, hey, all right, I'm in the end game. I need to start trading and, converting my pawn. No, squeeze the position to perfection, guys. Remember, orange juice. Rook to d1, knight to f4. Now, I can play like g3 and just like slowly but surely hold everything together. But active play, guys. Rook to a1, and I am winning this bishop. Knight takes, king to d2, and it is getting super obvious. That bishop is dead, gone, finished, and we are slowly converting this game. In the game, I simply took on a6, and this is going to be the final piece of information that you guys are going to have to implement. Whenever you have your upper piece, like the piece to me doesn't exist until you start using it. So if you're up all night and the night is just sitting, just like watching TV, it's not good. You need to start to show your opponents that they're down the piece. So all I did was simply get my knight back in the game. It started to be involved. And now when you have the 2 versus 1, you simply start converting, and that was game, guys. So thanks again for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this, like, share, and just enjoy.